starts to work backwards. You expect change to bring peace, but peace is what allows change to arrive. You expect certainty to follow evidence, but evidence only appears once certainty is embodied. The sequence is reversed because the field organizes from the inside out, not from the future backward. From a quantum perspective, reality is not pulled toward you. It is synchronized with you. Synchronization only happens when your internal frequency is stable. Needing creates oscillation. Oscillation prevents synchronization. When oscillation stops, alignment becomes immediate. This is also why manifestation feels slow when you are emotionally invested in timing. Emotional urgency activates stress circuits in the brain. Cortisol rises. Attention narrows. The body enters anticipation mode. Anticipation anchors consciousness to a future moment that does not exist yet. And when consciousness lives in the future, the present cannot collapse into form. Attraction begins the moment the body feels safe without arrival. This safety is not indifference, it is completeness, a state where nothing essential feels missing now. When the nervous system registers completeness, the signal to the quantum field becomes clean. There is no contradiction between thought, emotion, and identity. Coherence stabilizes. Coherence collapses probability faster than effort ever could. This explains why people often experience breakthroughs right after they stop trying. They didn't abandon their desire. They abandoned the posture of waiting. They stopped scanning reality for proof. They stopped asking when. That internal stillness allowed the field to respond without interference. The universe doesn't reward detachment. It responds to alignment. Alignment feels quiet, almost neutral. There is no rush to explain it or secure it. In fact, the more you try to hold it, the more it destabilizes. This is because holding reintroduces fear of loss. Fear reactivates need. Need recreates distance. True attraction does not feel like pulling. It feels like allowing. Allowing is not passive. It is receptive without tension. It is action without emotional charge. It is movement that arises naturally from identity rather than effort. When you act from allowing, reality meets you halfway. Not because you asked, but because you stopped resisting. This is why manifestation accelerates when you stop watching it. Observation with expectation interferes. Observation with presence collapses. The difference is not mental focus, but internal posture. You don't attract what you think about most. You attract what your nervous system treats as normal. Normality is the deepest signal of all. In the next part, we're going to explore how the nervous system creates attraction or delay, why needing is registered as instability, and how to shift into a state where attraction becomes automatic, without forcing positivity, visualizing harder, or pretending you don't care. Because the moment you stop needing, you don't lose power, you finally activate it. To understand why attraction begins only after need dissolves, you have to look at how the nervous system communicates with the quantum field. This is the missing link in most manifestation teachings. The field does not respond to words, affirmations, or intentions in isolation. It responds to the state that your body is broadcasting consistently. Needing is registered by the nervous system as instability. Even when the mind is hopeful, the body remains slightly contracted. Breathing is shallow. Attention scans the environment. There is an unconscious sense that something essential is missing. That missing signal becomes the dominant frequency. The quantum field mirrors frequency, not desire. When the body is in a state of lack, reality reflects lack through delay, inconsistency, or partial results. Not because the universe is withholding, but because coherence has not stabilized. Coherence means the mind, body, and identity are signaling the same message. Need fractures that signal. From a neuroscience perspective, this happens because need keeps the brain in prediction mode. The brain is constantly simulating the future, rehearsing scenarios and checking timelines. Prediction locks awareness into what is not here yet, and what is not here cannot collapse into form. Attraction begins when prediction quiets. When the nervous system exits prediction, it enters regulation. Regulation widens perception. Instead of searching for outcomes, you begin noticing openings. Instead of waiting for permission, you respond naturally to what is already available. This is when movement becomes fluid and opportunities feel obvious rather than forced. This regulated state feels deceptively simple. There is no excitement spike, no rush of certainty, just a grounded sense of being okay now. And that okay now is the exact condition required for the field to respond cleanly. Quantum manifestation does not operate on intensity. It operates on stability. This is why the universe appears to reward people who stop caring, but that interpretation is incomplete. They did not stop caring about the outcome. They stopped using the outcome as emotional regulation. They stopped relying on the future to settle the present. Once that dependency is removed, attraction accelerates. Another critical shift happens here. Identity stops being future-oriented. When you need something, your identity is positioned before fulfillment. You see yourself as unfinished. When need dissolves, identity collapses into the present. You no longer feel like you're becoming someone later. You inhabit yourself now. Identity is the strongest attractor in the quantum field. When identity stabilizes, reality organizes around it rapidly because there is no internal contradiction left to resolve. The field no longer receives mixed instructions. There is no signal saying, "I am whole," competing with another saying, "I need this to be okay." That internal agreement is what allows attraction to feel effortless. This is also why silence becomes natural during this phase. You don't feel the urge to explain what you're doing or announce your intentions. Explanation disperses energy. Silence consolidates it, and consolidated energy moves fast. The universe does not respond to urgency. It responds to containment. Containment means your energy is no longer leaking into worry, anticipation, or monitoring. When energy stays contained, it intensifies without force. And intensity without force is magnetic. In the next part, we'll explore why trying to let go often fails, how the mind turns release into another strategy, and what actually causes the shift from needing to attracting to happen naturally rather than deliberately. Because attraction doesn't begin when you decide to stop needing. It begins when your system finally believes it's safe to stop. At this stage, the biggest misunderstanding people fall into is believing that letting go is an action they must perform. They try to release attachment deliberately, monitor their emotions, correct their thoughts, and suppress desire, all of which keeps the system locked in effort. Letting go, when forced, is just control wearing a softer mask. True release is not something you do. It's something that happens when the nervous system no longer feels threatened by uncertainty. As long as uncertainty feels unsafe, the body will cling to outcomes. It will rehearse, plan, hope, and brace. Not because you lack faith, but because the system is trying to protect itself. Attraction cannot begin from protection mode. Protection creates contraction. Contraction blocks coherence. This is why many people say, "I let go, but nothing happened." In reality, the mind let go while the body stayed tense, and the quantum field listens to the body first. From a neuroscience perspective, this is simple. The body is trained through repetition, not intention. If your system has learned that safety comes after achievement, it will continue to seek achievement before relaxing. No affirmation can override that pattern. Only new experiences of safety without achievement can. Those experiences are subtle. They often look like moments where nothing changes externally, yet something softens internally. You stop checking your phone. You stop mentally rehearsing conversations. You stop scanning for signs. These moments are not dramatic, but they are decisive. Each time the body experiences calm without resolution, a new association is formed. Calm no longer equals arrival. Calm becomes available now. And the moment calm is available without conditions, the need signal dissolves. This is when attraction activates. Attraction is not a pull, it's a resonance. When your internal state stabilizes, reality doesn't rush toward you. It synchronizes with you. Synchronization feels effortless because there is no resistance to overcome. Things line up because nothing inside you is pushing them away. This is also why people often miss the exact moment attraction begins. They're not looking for it anymore. They're present. And presence doesn't announce itself. Another shift that happens here is how you relate to desire itself. Desire becomes clean. It no longer feels heavy or urgent. It feels like a preference, not a requirement. And preferences do not distort the signal. When desire is clean, action becomes clean too. You act because it makes sense, not because you're trying to close a gap. Clean action carries no emotional charge, so it doesn't generate friction, and without friction, time collapses. This is where manifestation stops feeling random. Outcomes no longer arrive in chaotic bursts followed by droughts. They arrive with consistency, predictably, quietly. Consistency is a sign that coherence has stabilized. The universe is not responding to your wishes at this point. It is responding to who you are being consistently when nothing is happening. That is the state that defines attraction. In the next part, we'll look at why this state often arrives before people feel ready, why attraction can activate even when confidence is low, and how the universe rearranges circumstances after internal stability appears, not before. Because attraction doesn't wait for certainty. It waits for alignment. One of the most counterintuitive parts of this process is that attraction often activates before confidence appears. This is where people get confused. They expect to feel certain, powerful, or ready before reality responds. But the universe doesn't wait for confidence. It waits for stability. Confidence is a mental state. Stability is a physiological one. You can feel unsure and still be aligned. You can have doubts and still be coherent. What matters is not the absence of questions, but the absence of internal collapse. When uncertainty no longer dysregulates your nervous system, attraction can operate freely. This is why some of the most aligned shifts happen during periods that feel emotionally quiet or even slightly empty. The old urgency is gone, but the new excitement hasn't arrived yet. That in-between space feels strange to the mind, but it's fertile to the field. In that space, identity is no longer anchored to striving, but it hasn't fully attached to outcomes either. It floats. And floating identity doesn't pull reality forward or push it away. It allows rearrangement. Rearrangement is subtle at first. Conversations change tone. Timing shifts without explanation. You find yourself saying yes or no without overthinking. Decisions feel clean. There's less internal debate. That clarity is not intellectual. It's embodied. From a quantum standpoint, this is when probability distribution narrows. Instead of many conflicting futures competing for collapse, one dominant trajectory begins to form. Not because you chose it mentally, but because your internal state stopped contradicting itself. Contradiction creates branching. Consistency creates convergence. This is also why attraction often looks obvious in hindsight. Once coherence stabilizes, reality doesn't need to announce its movements. It simply reorganizes. And because you're no longer watching for signs, you notice results only once you're already inside them. Another important shift here is how you relate to effort. You don't avoid action, but action no longer carries emotional urgency. You don't act to make something happen. You act because the action feels natural from where you are now. Action without urgency doesn't distort time. This is the difference between aligned movement and forced progress. Forced progress tries to outrun the present. Aligned movement emerges from it. One creates friction, the other creates flow. At this stage, people often say life feels like it's meeting them halfway. But what's actually happening is that you're no longer standing in the doorway. You've stepped fully into the room, and the door closes behind you. When the door closes, attention stops leaking backward or forward. It stays here. And here is where manifestation operates. This is also where external validation loses importance. You don't need reassurance that you're on the right path. Needing reassurance would reintroduce dependency on the future. Instead, you feel grounded enough to let things unfold without commentary. That groundedness is not passive, it's magnetic. Magnetism is not intensity, it's containment. Energy that stays with itself becomes attractive. Energy that leaks into worry, anticipation, or explanation dissipates. The universe responds to what is contained. This is why silence often surrounds major shifts. Not silence as secrecy, but silence as coherence. You don't speak less because you're hiding something. You speak less because there is less internal noise to discharge. In the next part, we'll bring everything together by exploring how to recognize when attraction has truly activated, how to avoid slipping back into need-based states, and how to stabilize this frequency so it becomes your baseline, not a temporary phase. Because attraction doesn't require you to feel powerful. It requires you to stop being pulled out of yourself. At this point, the most important skill is recognition, not of outcomes, but of state. Attraction does not announce itself with fireworks. It announces itself with normality, and that's exactly why many people miss it and accidentally pull themselves back into need. When attraction has activated, you don't feel on the verge. You don't feel like something big is about to happen. You feel present, grounded, slightly indifferent to timing. And paradoxically, that indifference is the clearest signal that alignment is holding. Needing always feels like anticipation. Attraction feels like availability. Availability means your attention is no longer preoccupied with future relief. You're engaged with what's in front of you, not because you're forcing presence, but because nothing is pulling you away anymore. The nervous system has stopped asking for reassurance. This is the critical distinction most people don't understand. Manifestation doesn't fail because alignment is fragile. It fails because people don't trust the quiet phase. They mistake calm for stagnation. And the moment they start checking again, the system re-enters prediction mode. Prediction recreates distance. This is why patience is often misunderstood. Patience is not waiting calmly. Patience is the absence of waiting altogether. It's living fully without postponement. When you live without postponement, reality doesn't need to postpone you either. Another sign attraction has activated is how you respond to uncertainty. When you were needing, uncertainty triggered anxiety. When attraction is live, uncertainty feels open-ended. You don't rush to close it. You allow it to unfold. Allowance keeps the signal clean. From a quantum perspective, allowance means the observer is no longer interfering with the system. Collapse happens most efficiently when the observer is stable and non-reactive. Reactivity keeps probabilities oscillating. Stability allows one trajectory to solidify. This is also where many people sabotage themselves unintentionally. They start to use the state. They try to leverage alignment to get more faster. That leverage reintroduces control. Control reintroduces tension. Tension reactivates need. The solution is not discipline, it's familiarity. The more familiar this state becomes, the less tempting it is to manipulate it. You don't try to use breathing when breathing feels normal. You don't try to use balance when standing feels natural. In the same way, you stop trying to use attraction when alignment feels ordinary. Ordinariness is stability. This is why people who live in sustained alignment don't talk about manifestation much. They don't need to. It's not a special event. It's the natural byproduct of how they inhabit themselves. At this stage, action flows without emotional charge. You still take steps, but steps are not weighted with expectation. They don't feel like bets. They feel like expressions. Expression doesn't create pressure. Pressure slows things down. This is also when identity fully detaches from outcomes. Success doesn't inflate you. Delays don't deflate you. Both are processed without collapse. And a system that doesn't collapse internally doesn't create external collapse either. Stability breeds continuity. The universe responds best to continuity because continuity allows patterns to complete. When you oscillate between needing and allowing, patterns reset. When you stay steady, patterns mature. This is why attraction strengthens over time when alignment is maintained. It doesn't spike and disappear. It deepens. It becomes more precise, less dramatic, but more effective. In the final part, we'll bring everything together by grounding this understanding into a lived orientation, and we'll talk about how to anchor this state so it doesn't fade under pressure, not through effort, but through structure. Because attraction doesn't ask you to stay vigilant. It asks you to stay with yourself. When you look at everything you've heard so far, a simple pattern emerges. Attraction was never something you had to activate. It was something that naturally turned on the moment internal interference stopped. The universe didn't suddenly notice you. It finally received a clear signal. That signal was not confidence, it was not certainty, and it was not belief. It was stability. Stability tells the quantum field that your internal system is no longer fragmented. That thought, emotion, and identity are no longer pulling in different directions. And when that happens, reality doesn't need motivation, it reorganizes automatically. This is why attraction feels inevitable once it begins. Not dramatic, not explosive, just inevitable. You're no longer trying to make things happen. You're watching them unfold without surprise. The biggest misunderstanding about manifestation is thinking it's about getting something new. In truth, it's about removing the state that kept you separate from what already existed as a possibility. Needing was that state, and once it dissolved, there was nothing left to negotiate. From a quantum perspective, this is the collapse of probability through coherence. From a neurological perspective, it's a regulated nervous system that no longer ties safety to the future. From a spiritual perspective, it's embodiment, living as if nothing essential is missing. All three describe the same moment, and that moment doesn't feel like victory. It feels like relief. Relief, without a rival, is the strongest signal you can send, because it tells the universe you are no longer using outcomes to regulate yourself. You are no longer asking reality to prove anything to you. That's why attraction strengthens when you stop watching it. Attention without expectation stabilizes frequency. Expectation reintroduces pressure. Pressure slows response. This is also why alignment cannot be rushed. Rushing is just waiting in disguise, and the universe always mirrors orientation, not intention. The question now is not how to attract more. The question is how to remain in this state when life challenges you again, because challenges will come, not as punishment, but as invitations to see whether this alignment is conditional or embodied, whether it depends on circumstances or identity. This is where grounding matters, not motivation, not hype, structure, something that helps your nervous system return to stability when old patterns try to resurface. Something that anchors this frequency into daily life so it doesn't fade the moment pressure appears. That's exactly why quantum rebirth exists, together with the quantum grimoire. Not to teach you how to manifest harder, but to help you stop manifesting from need altogether. To stabilize this internal shift at the level of perception, identity, and nervous system regulation. If this video resonated, not emotionally but physically, if you felt calmer instead of excited, that's your signal. You'll find the quantum rebirth work linked in the pinned comment, created for those who are done chasing and ready to live from alignment. Because attraction doesn't respond to effort, it doesn't respond to urgency, and it doesn't respond to explanation. It responds when you finally stop needing the universe to answer. And that's the exact moment. It already has.